Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Mashira. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I want to thank you for taking time to tune in to the podcast. Today is what I like to call Transformation Tuesday. And with every episode, I like to make sure that I am sharing information that you can use. If you've tuned in to the previous episodes, you know for the last few weeks, I've been focused on education, particularly how our parents and how our teachers are transitioning during the midst of this pandemic where we are sheltering in place and teachers have the responsibility of transitioning from the traditional setting of teaching to now teaching through e-learning online. And my first guest from a couple of weeks ago were two single moms who are educators, and they talked about the balancing act of balancing their career as well as trying to make sure that they are attentive to their own children and helping them as they transition to e-learning. And then I talked to three other educators who also talked about the leadership aspect in terms of how their leadership team was instrumental in making sure that the transition from traditional teaching to e-learning was as smooth as possible. So I wanted to expand the conversation because anyone who knows me knows that I am an advocate for education and I am truly passionate about education, whether it's educating young children, young adults, or adults who have chosen to return to pursue another degree. Anything that's education related, I'm passionate about. Um, and as a parent and as an educator, I've worked in the field. I've worked as a professor. I've worked as an administrator, and I've been in the field of education for well over 20 years. But as an educator and as a parent, I also understand the importance of having men in the classroom, particularly for our children, for our Black and Brown children, the importance of having Black men in the classroom. And so with today's episode, my guests are three young, innovative, energetic Black men who are working in our schools in front of Black and Brown children. I think that you are really going to enjoy these three young men, two of whom are actually biological brothers. So today, my guests are Jean Muhammad, Jamil Muhammad, and Mikhail Muhammad. So want you to tune in and listen to this really in-depth conversation that we're going to have about their experiences as educators and the reason why they are working in the field of education. So stay tuned. I'm really excited about this episode of Light It Up because, as you all know, typically when I have a guest on the podcast, it's a woman. But today we're going to mix it up a little bit. I have three very distinguished young men who are all working in the field of education. My guests are Jean Muhammad, who is a Morehouse graduate and currently working on his MBA at National Louis University. He's also a full-time PE teacher at East Chicago Urban Enterprise Academy. And then I have Jamil Muhammad, who just so happens to be related to Jean Muhammad. He is also a graduate of Morehouse College, and he is a middle school science teacher, also at East Chicago Urban Enterprise Academy. And last but not least is Mikhail Muhammad, who is a recent graduate of Kentucky State University with a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in business administration. And Mikhail currently teaches world history at Urban Prep Bronzeville campus here in Chicago. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Welcome. So we'll get started. Um, First, I'd like to know if you all, I gave a brief introduction and shared your background with the listeners. But Jean, let's start with you. If you could give us a little bit more about your background. I see you're a Morehouse graduate and alum. If you could just share your background with the audience, please.
So I graduated. So my name is Eugene Muhammad. I graduated in 2018 from Morehouse College. Best experience, my best college experience I've had. I've been to 3 colleges, and I didn't intend on going into education, especially at the elementary and middle school level, but it just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I graduated, I got an opportunity, so I took it. And I'm pretty much an MBA student. I am an entrepreneur. I'm working on that, building the foundation for some things I got going. So it's pretty much it, briefly, about me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jamil, you could share with us.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jamil Muhammad. My background consists of I studied biology at Morehouse College, and I graduated 2019. My interests definitely consist of primarily education, just because I feel as though that inner child, like that curiosity that keeps the mind wondering, it's never really died. So education has always been my it's been what's drawing me.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy fitness, nutrition, and also content creation. So all throughout college, high school, that's what I've been doing, working on exercise science. And in the near future, God willing, I'll be pursuing some more graduate studies in exercise science and physiology so that I can continue and really just enhance my knowledge so that I can give it back to my community, because that's what I'm here for. So all my life, I already knew I wanted to be a teacher. I always knew I wanted to be in somebody's classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have my own classroom.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Mikkel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So me, like the other brother that was just talking before the last person that went, I went to Kentucky State University, and Kentucky State University was my third college as well, and it was also my best experience. I pledged Omega Psi Phi at Kentucky State University. All my life, I've been really intrigued with history. History is just something that I've been attached to ever since I went to Muhammad University of Islam here in Chicago. It just kind of gave me that basis of wanting to do for self and know for self. I just feel like, us as Black people, we just had that fundamental self knowledge, we'll be in a much better predicament that we are in now. And so that's why I just went on ahead and got my undergrad degree in history. And then shortly, I finished all of my classes in December, and I was supposed to walk in May. But right after I finished all of my classes, I was able to be blessed with the opportunity to teach at Urban Prep Bronzeville campus. And really, it's just been an amazing experience, something that I will cherish for the rest of my life, because I, like the other brother, wanted to teach my whole life. But I also plan on getting into other investments and to become an entrepreneur myself, but also teach at the same time. So I went to 3 colleges, graduated, stayed on my grades, and here I am now teaching high schoolers. Just blessed, for real.
Okay. So, and that's interesting because all of you, kind of touched upon the fact that you attended other institutions before landing at an HBCU. Can you kind of talk about, just to help me get an idea? I never attended an HBCU, had aspiration, Um, what made you all decide to attend a historically Black college? And particularly for Jean, Will, both ended up at the same institution. So what was the driving force behind you all attending an HBCU? And Jean, you could go ahead and start.
So it definitely was not planned. I spend my time, I love argumentation and debate, and I love wisdom and knowledge and studying just in general in all things. And growing up, me and my father and my brother, we would just have these long drawn out conversations and debates, just like playing with different ideologies and ideas and things like that. Then I heard that, well, my father actually would tell me about his matriculation through Morehouse, and I liked it. And, you know, he said he met some of the most intelligent people on the planet. So I wanted that experience. So I decided to enroll. So, and it worked out. I started off at a community college and then I transferred. So I knew I needed a 4-year degree, bachelor's degree. So I went for business management, and I found what I was looking for. I joined a debate team. My Jamil Muhammad, you know, who's on here, was my partner. We were called the Muhammad Brothers. So that was pretty fun. And they really did take my critical thinking and just being critical in general to the next level. Analytical skills, how to verify if things are true or not, thinking on both sides to find the truth in certain situations or resolutions and things like that. So that was pretty fun. But I went just because I was interested in becoming more intelligent and smart. That always fascinated me. And I found that. And we also got more from that experience. You know, we started a couple clubs on campus and things like that. So it was just a great experience, very empowering experience. So that's pretty much how I ended up there.
Okay. And then Jamil, what about you? Did you just decide to follow in your father and your brother's footsteps?
For the most part, my brother and I have been on the same page. We both went to the same high school. My first year of college was at a community college, and it was at the same college as Eugene. Mm-hmm. So I think it was probably one of the times when Eugene and my dad and myself, we were probably having a conversation, and we saw a video. It was like a slight little promotional video for Morehouse College. I think it was called "For Whom the Bell Tolls." I think it's still on YouTube. But the image and what was presented was really fascinating, and it stimulated something in my mind, like a curiosity, saying, what does it take to create a man like that, which we saw in the video? And my dad never really sold us on going to Morehouse. Like, he never really pushed the idea. He just let it be. So at a point, we were just like, okay, we're gonna apply to Morehouse. So we applied, and to be honest, it was the only 4-year institution that I applied to, and it's crazy that now I'm thinking about it, because I just had my mind set on Morehouse. So I knew that there was more to what was in the mind of Black men, and I would just be in an institution to learn about how diverse, not only the Black race, how diverse that is, but how diverse our perspectives are in the way that we approach education, the world, entrepreneurship. I knew that I would have a beautiful experience with that. And I knew that intellectually, we have some heavy hitters as well, such as everyone reveres Dr. Martin Luther King. And I knew that the knowledge would be really dense in that institution. And to be honest, the institution that molds you is extremely important. Some people say that, oh, the undergrad isn't that important. But in your late teens, early 20s, it's very important to mold yourself and keep yourself in an environment that will enrich you. And that's exactly what we experienced, plus some. Like, our experience on the debate team was unlike any other experience that I've had in my life, in terms of having so many Black men just having mental jousts. And then even my capstone for my senior seminar for my biology major, it was literally the most enriching and challenging experience I've experienced thus far. And I knew that I would get exactly what I wished for and some more. So that's what it was.
Okay. All right. And Mikkel, where did you start off before you transferred to Kentucky State?
My first college was Lake Forest College, and I went there originally to play basketball. And it really wasn't the best place for me. I ended up tearing my shoulder out of place my senior year in high school. But as I tried to matriculate through that off season and then start my freshman season in college, I still had shoulder issues and ended up having to have surgery for it. So, being at that type of institution which was a PWI was not the best fit, and I really don't feel like it's the best fit for Black people, but especially young Black males 18 coming from Chicago and then going into an institution to where even though I went to University of Chicago Lab, I graduated from there, I still live in Roseland, so that was still a community that was you know mostly Black, in a sense some call it the hood, but coming into that environment, I kind of lost my way, and then I ended up transferring to Russ College, and then Russ College really wasn't the place for me, so I just kind of went real heavy on my grades, and then I ended up transferring to Kentucky State, and after I went to Kentucky State, that was all she wrote. That was the best institution for me. I was a part of the SGA. I got to pledge there. Um, it was just a real beautiful experience. And actually, the staff at Kentucky State pushed me to go into the role of being a teacher. So I have to thank a lot of them for giving me that guidance. I was able to teach some classes at Kentucky State for African American history and things of that nature. So I would just say that being at an HBCU for any Black person is beneficial. Um, not a knock to people that went to PWI, but you just don't get that same cultural benefit when you go to a HBCU. I learned a lot of professionalism coming from an HBCU, and so that's my story.
And I think what's important to note, is no secret here. All of us, we have the same last name of Muhammad. Only two of us are related on this episode, but I think what's key is that all of us, I know we were all born and raised as Muslims, so I didn't convert to Islam. But so we already have the foundation anyway of having the knowledge of ourselves, which I think is very important. But just thinking about that, going into an experience of being at an HBCU, and you already have that critical foundation that most people don't have. Some people, when they go to an HBCU, that's when they find themselves and they find their Blackness. But I think it's safe to assume that you all went there and you already knew who you were. So you didn't have that hurdle that you needed to try to get over. So you were already at an advantage, so to speak. Could you kind of touch upon, and Jean, I'll go ahead and start back with you. In terms of your high school experience, and even at the community college level, did you have any Black teachers? What was that experience?
So you said in high school?
In high school, or even when you were at the community college?
Okay, so my teachers in high school, I went to the Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences in Mount Greenwood.
Yeah.
Very unique experience, and a lot of good and a lot of bad. But they were predominantly white. You're European or things like, I think I saw maybe one Black teacher there, but they were mostly white. And then for community college, I went to Triton College for about 3 years before I transferred to Morehouse. And I think I maybe had a few Hispanic teachers, but they were mostly white as well. The only black teacher I had was probably my dad. I took his philosophy class. That was about it.
Did you get an A?
Oh yeah, of course. I had to be top of the class. Like I had to get everything right.
Right.
I could not respond to discussions and things like that. I had to do everything perfect because
Mm-hmm.
that would be a bad look.
Right.
But yeah. And then I didn't get a lot of African American and even African or just black teachers until I went to an HBCU to get that kind of perspective. We didn't only have black teachers. Like we had women who were non-black. I had my human resources teacher was Arab.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had mostly black male teachers though.
Okay. Okay. And Mikkel, was that a similar experience for you at Kentucky State in terms of you had more professors of color?
Oh yeah. The head of the history department is a black woman actually. Her name is Dr. Gillian. And pretty much everybody, I would say about 70% of the staff is black. So, it was pretty decent in terms of that demographic. But when I was at lab, no, it was one black teacher
Mm-hmm.
and it was two black counselors that
Yeah.
I remember. The rest were security guards.
And I was kind of sharing before we actually got started. So I actually have 3 children. I have a set of twins who are sophomores getting ready to enter into their junior year of high school. And my youngest is in 7th grade. And we live in an area, so we're in the south suburbs of Chicago, but we're in the Homewood Flossmoor School District. And once I moved to this district, my 15-year-olds, my daughter has only had one black teacher, which she just had last semester, and that was for a business class. My son hasn't had any black teachers. And fortunately, though, my youngest has had so far a black teacher every year since 5th grade. But because of their experience, because we went from living in Matteson, where they had more black teachers, to a school district where they didn't have any, they were able to point out the changes in terms of treatment and how Caucasian students were treated compared to black students. And we started having the conversation probably in 6th grade that applied to, they were going to apply to HBCUs versus a PWI, simply because I wanted them to have, for starters, I wanted them to have the experience that I didn't have, because all of my education, undergrad, graduate school, my doctorate, that's all been at PWIs just because of how things panned out. But I want them to be able to have a different type of experience. So, Jamil, could you kind of talk about, in terms of your experience at Morehouse, what advice would you give to, particularly, we'll talk about young Black men, because I want that to be my focus for today. What advice would you give to a young Black man who is in high school, who's thinking about, pursuing higher education and looking at colleges and universities? How would you convince him to consider an HBCU?
Yeah, I would begin with actually having a physical experience there. I know at Morehouse, they have programs where you can actually go in and room with some current students. So to actually go there and be immersed in that environment is one of the most important and definitely one of the most important things that you can do, especially when considering the institution that you want to attend or that you might be considering. So I would say try it, meaning you go and experience some of the culture in the institution before you say, I don't want to go there because I just don't like it. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed a lot of young people say that. They say, oh, I don't like it. I'm like, well, what do you know about it? I don't know. I just heard some things. It's like those people have their own experiences, so you should have your own. And before you deny it or knock it, I think you should go and actually be in that environment. And then tell me how you feel, because now it's informed. So I would say go in, stay there for a few days. I think they have weekend programs, typically in the spring. So you go there, experience it, go talk to some department chairs. If they were if they were interested in science, I would definitely tell them to go see Dr. Handy. I would, if I was able to, I would even try to put them in the face of different professors, because everyone is different. They have their own pedagogy and approach to education. So I would probably, kind of biased, but I don't care. I really would just take them to the most interesting minds that I've experienced at Morehouse. That's how I would convince them. Because if you're in the space of another Black man or a Black woman or anybody that just has your best interest as a Black person, that's definitely going to be different from somebody at an institution they just have prestige and that's it. It's different when you have prestige and you have interest in that person. And it's going to be kind of synergistic with respect to the decision that they make. So that's the way that I would try to convince them. If I had the means to make sure that they can go experience, have conversations, you can see people, even on Brown Street at Morehouse College, we always stop, have conversations. It's self-love. And to see that and experience that is much different from actually just hearing about it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to recruit you all for the fall, because I got to schedule some more school visits for mine. And so I want to now try to dive into just your experience as educators. I know, Jean, you mentioned that the opportunity kind of presented itself for you to be able to go enter into the teaching profession. And Jamil and Mikkel, you all kind of always knew that you wanted to be teachers. As you all probably know, Black male teachers make up 2% of the teaching population, okay? And it seems like, we're having, as far as the university level with our teacher preparation programs, it doesn't seem like we're able to recruit as many young Black men to enter into the profession. Do you have any insight that you could share with ways in which we can get more young Black men to be interested in selecting teaching as a profession of choice? And Mikkel, I'll start with you.
I mean, I get to start out by saying, one, it has to be a passion of yours. You just can't go into teaching because of the pay. You can't go into teaching because you think it's something you want to do. I feel like you just have to have a passion to really want to help and see young men and young women grow. On my end, it's just I teach at an all boys school, so my passion is literally seeing the next generation become greats and have self knowledge and just have the ability to think and critically think on their own about society and white supremacy and all of these different things. So I just feel like as Black men, it's time for us to just start wanting to help as much as we can, because I didn't know that stat at 2%. We make up 2% of teachers in the United States. That's a wild statistic. So just from me being in a classroom, actually teaching my students and seeing the effect that I have on them, is enough for me to do this for a very long time. And for people that's trying, or people that aren't really leaning towards it, um, you know, like I said, I just feel like you have to have that type of passion. But again, that passion comes when you have self knowledge. Because once you understand society and what we're going through, and how it's been planned for us to go through this specific obstacle, then you will want to help as much as you can. So if you don't have that self knowledge, you're really not gonna want to help as much as you can. You're gonna go after your own goals, you know. And not saying that that's a bad thing, but you know, teaching and giving guidance to our youth is very important because they need it. You know, they're in dire need of our help. So I would just say that once you get that self knowledge, then I feel like it's just gonna automatically kick in that you want to help the youth. You know, that's that's just what I believe.
Did you have your mind set out to teach at an all boys school, or was it just, there was an opportunity, a position available and you applied? What was your goal when you graduated and went into teaching or was looking for a teaching position?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was uh some positions were through word of mouth, and some positions are online. Like a lot of people don't know, if you just go on the internet and just search up different schools, they have positions open. You know, everybody's trying to get them a teacher. I don't know about right now during COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
while all these things are going on, but everybody's trying to get them a teacher. And um, yeah, I knew that it was something. I really was just looking for a job, to be honest. But once I saw that it was teaching available, I was, that's just something I've been wanting to do. I've been, I really love Black history. Like I'm a nerd, super nerd when it comes to Black history. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I just really wanted to help as much as I could, and this is a great way to help. And so I just was really doing a lot of research, applying for job after job, and then you know, God has blessed me with the opportunity. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I only got accepted for teaching jobs. Everything else, I got denied for. So
Wow.
that showed me right there.
Right. That it was meant for you to work in this field and to be an educator. That's great.
Right.
Um, Jamil, you are teaching science, middle school science. Was that something that you set out? Did you know that you want to teach middle school? Did you have a preference for high school? Because you could go either route potentially with middle grades or secondary.
At first, I definitely knew I wanted to teach youth because in the past I've done, or currently, always done after school programs, summer programs, just different enrichment programs with children. And I knew that I love science and mathematics. So I was planning on going for the high school students. But it just so happened that Eugene had been hired at East Chicago Urban Enterprise Academy. And then I actually started out as a sub. So I was subbing for about half a year. And then the position just opened up. I knew I wanted to teach science for sure. And it literally just opened up. And I'm just like, I know there are no coincidences. So I think this is going to be my starting point. And I was just really grateful.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know it was going to happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got my first year experience, and it's been pretty enriching and educating so far.
Okay. So Jean, it's safe to say you're the oldest. And it seems like you're always looking out for your younger brother. I don't know what the age difference is between the two of you.
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So you're teaching PE. Do you incorporate the health and nutrition do you have that flexibility to do that with your students?
So I've been blessed to they really give me the autonomy to do what it is I want to do in my class. Anything progressive I'm able to implement. I show them videos, motivational videos, health videos, different food, lifestyles that they could incorporate into their lives. I teach them about intermittent fasting. So I try to incorporate a lot of technology during the gym class and things like that. So yeah, we pretty much do a whole lot. And I also talk to them a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I'll use about 15 minutes of their gym time, which is an hour. They're blessed for that right there anyways. But I'll talk to them about various topics that might be affecting their lives. A lot of them have bad attitudes, you know, so we talk about attitude. We talk about their mindsets, you know. We just talk about different things, you know. So a range of different things that might be affecting them. Sometimes I'll just let them tell me what's going on and we'll have a conversation about it. So nobody's talking to them. So I let them talk and I challenge a lot of the things that they think,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that's needed.
Is this is this a charter school?
Yes.
Okay. And it's K-8, or is it one of those schools where it goes up to
It's K-8.
K-8? Okay. That's great. I think, you know, so many people have their opinions and their views about charter schools, but the one thing that I can say is that you do have that autonomy to be able to try different approaches, you know, to education versus when you're in a public school setting where they're consistently pushing, preparing students for a test, for a standardized test, or the focus is always on test scores. And then there are all of the other issues that go along with that. So I think that's great that you all are in a position whereas you're able to
Can I,
exercise some autonomy. Go ahead.
so it might, I would attribute that having that autonomy to be creative within the learning space to the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We have great leadership. The principal is very progressive. She is constantly implementing ways to empower the teacher to deliver the teaching or the curriculum in a very creative way that grabs the attention of the students. You know, they may try to make it fun. So we do a lot of those things, but it's the leadership.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. And what's the demographics of this school?
It's Latino and Black, and some of them are mixed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there are any Caucasian kids. They're mixed. A lot of them, they might have a Caucasian parent or something like that, but most of them are not minority demographic.
Okay. And then in terms of the demographics of the teaching staff, are you all the only two Black men in the building, or are there other Black men in the building? Are there other male teachers in the building?
So I'm gonna let Jamil comment after this, but because I was there first, so I saw an all women staff, and they're mostly, that's very diverse because we have some European women whom are teachers, and we have a few Black women whom are teachers, and it was probably me, the dean, and the security guard. We were the only men in general in the entire school. But this year, we have I think most of the mod is male, African American male. A couple of them are our ages, so.
Okay. Okay, good. And then were you gonna did you have anything to add, Jamil?
Yes, it's really, I think it's important to note that this year specifically, in the middle school, the 6th grade math and science teacher, he's a Black man. In the 7th and 8th grade math teacher is a Black man as well. So we have majority Black staff in middle school, and it's really, I think it's important just to see, like, some of my 8th graders, they saw the Black 6th grade and 7th grade teachers, and they were thinking, like, man, this is a really cool experience. And they told me when they were younger, they're like, Ms. Muhammad, I never really had any Black teachers, and it's just good that you all are here. And they just thanked us for being there. And for me, I think it's really amazing that the year that I start, you also have 2 more Black men doing the same thing that I want to do.
Right, right. That's awesome. And Mikhail, I know with urban prep, I think the demographics, the majority Black teaching staff or
Oh yeah, Urban Prep does a good job of hiring, you know, their own. I don't think we have. I don't know. We don't have a white teacher at my campus, at least. I don't know about the other campuses, but I know my campus, our staff is fully Black. We have uh, a lady of Asian descent there. That's about it. Um, and it's about 50-50 with men and women. So it's pretty good in that retrospect.
okay. So let me ask you, because both of you, um, Mikhail and Eugene, you all, no, Mikhail and Jamil, I'm sorry, you all are essentially in your first year of teaching. Mikhail, you just began teaching in December, January, right after you completed your degree at Kentucky State. What has, I know this has been just an interesting first year or first semester for you, Mikhail, in particular, because you were probably in the classroom all of what, 2 months, January to first week or second week in March. And then yeah, and then you had to transition to e-learning due to COVID-19. So how has that, as a first year teacher, how has that transition been? Because the first year of teaching typically is the hardest anyway, because you're embarking upon new territory. So can you just talk about how you were able to transition, how that's been going for you?
Well, when I first got there, it was tough. You're dealing with inner city kids. Urban prep gets kids within the inner city. So, of course, they tried me in the beginning. They tried me for a little bit, and I ultimately won. You know, um, and then right when I got into really, 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 really enjoying being in the classroom, that's when COVID-19 kicked in, and um, the saddest thing for me with all of this is that a lot of the students, not just in Chicago but worldwide, are kind of taking a huge toll on their education. This particular disease or virus is taking a huge toll on their education, and I know for young Black men and women that education isn't um, we don't have the same amount of resources as our white peers or Asian Americans as well. So I just look at this as kind of like this is a bit detrimental, and the best that I can do is just give as much work as I can to help them learn about what I was teaching, which was predominantly about white supremacy and how things are ran. Um, and trying to get them a sense of self, teaching them about about our African ancestry, and things of that nature. But the change has been shaky. I've been trying to do my best with it. I'm getting to work out there today. I just actually had uh, a virtual class today, and we did Kahoot, and the students seem to enjoy it. And they got to learn a little bit as much as they can. But what I look at this is just it's kind of detrimental to them learning in an actual school environment, and online is just a little difficult. Even when I was doing college classes online, I wasn't really it wasn't really interesting like that. So that's just what I'm dealing with. It's easy to give them work, it's easy to contact them and talk to them, but it's just the fact that I know that they're not getting the best. They're not going to be able to get the best form of education at all through this e-learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that's nationwide. But I'm really just focused on the fact that Black people. I'm just really worried about us, for real, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know.
And Jamil, how have you, how has this transition, I guess, been for you?
like most of the educators that I know, it has been pretty challenging, especially getting students to respond, because a lot of them do have limited resources. Some of them are only able to access internet at night or just at very inconvenient times. So I've been pretty lenient on my part. I don't find it to be, I don't find it necessary to be too rigorous, especially at this time. So it's been difficult because you also have not only the lack of resources, but you also have the mental health to take into consideration of the students and of the parents. A lot of them are out of work. A lot of them are in need of emotional support. And if you are a teacher or just anybody that the students can reach out to, if they have limited resources and they feel as though they can trust you, but there's a disconnect trying to reach you, that can negatively affect them as well. So I really want it to end, because the way that it has impacted us so far has allowed us to understand people's situations firsthand. And I mean, it just helps me to become grateful for the time that I had in the classroom, because it was pretty challenging as a first-year teacher, because they will, like Brother Mikhail said, they will try you, and they've been trying me for a very long time, and I did not fold. So it really just made me grateful for the time that I did have in the classroom, where I can speak to them as a group rather than reaching to them individually and not really feeling that human connection. Because when you're right next to them, you in the classroom experience, you're in front of them and you have their attention, it's a different energy reception rather than we're just on the internet talking. I'm just another guy on YouTube talking to them. So it's been very difficult, I would say.
And then Eugene, you, because you're in a unique situation as a PE teacher. I know my daughter's PE teacher sends assignments and has some expectations. Well, how have you been able to transition and work with your students?
Well, like Jamil, it's not rigorous at all. I've given them a couple of assignments. I have a Zoom meeting with them about once a week. Today I had another one. I had two this week, actually. Not many of them showed up because this one was not required. So they show up for the ones that's required. I spend a lot of time just like trying to find resources for next year. Like I did a donors choose to get this big speaker. It's very expensive for the gym class because I use this app. And so I did that. I filled out this application for an entire gym renovation. So I hope we get that. I haven't heard anything, but I did that. I find creative ways to just like stay in contact with them and things like that. I set up a separate classroom for debate. Me and my brother started a debate program, and we just tried to continue that at East Chicago, but COVID hit. We had only had one Saturday together, and then before it hit, so I've been trying to do that, but the school year is almost over, so I think that the best thing about this experience is we can learn from it. We need to maybe figure out e-learning and figure out how to use that effectively, because it's being used on the college level already. So I feel like it's just a learning experience. So all we can do is learn from this experience. So if it happens again, we'll know how to carry it out next time. So.
Yeah, and speaking of that, just in the way that universities prepare educators, I mean, we prepare you all to be teachers in the traditional sense in terms of teaching face to face. So it also speaks to the fact that from an higher ed institutional perspective, that we need to be more innovative in order to help prepare our future teachers for situations like this. I mean, I don't think that we can ever say that we're going to go back to normal because they're already talking about that there's gonna be another surge of this. We've got to think about the fall semester. Even in California, the California university system has already decided that there will not be in-person instruction for the entire state. And there are some school districts here in the state of Illinois. I'm not sure about Indiana, but I know they are looking at what are they going to do for the fall in August and September. And some school districts have already decided that they're going to try to continue with e-learning, which should be very interesting because, this was all an emergency. You know what I mean? So no one was prepared for this. And some school districts are going through this better than others. It also speaks to the digital divide and the lack of resources, particularly that we have in our community. So there are so many different things that we have to look at and to consider. Do you all have any ideas just from your own experience? And you all seem to be innovative folks. You have any suggestions or ideas on how teacher preparation programs at the university level can begin to prepare future teachers for situations such as this, where they won't be, teaching in a traditional sense of face-to-face, and how to be able to better transition in times of crisis in order to adapt their teaching methods and teaching styles at a short moment notice?
Well, I'll start off. I would say, if you're so the question is if it's a teacher coming into the situation, or is it somebody that's already been in this situation and now is teaching?
So for my institution, for example, we prepare, individuals who major in teacher education. When we're preparing them to graduate and become licensed teachers, we're preparing them in the traditional model in terms of how to educate. There is not a class that any of our May 2020 graduates took on how to facilitate e-learning or how to be creative in that space in terms of online learning. So I'm just wondering, do you all have any ideas or suggestions on what the institutions can do to better prepare future teachers? Because I don't think that this is a situation that, there may be other situations that occur like this, but we've got to find ways to be able to better prepare teachers to be able to adapt to this.
Well, I do feel like this particular time is going to change the way we teach for like generations to come, for real, because it has forced us to adapt to an online way of doing things. And so to kind of prepare teachers for it is to make sure that if you're going into this, stay professional. Um, make sure that you are uh, highly engaged with the kids. Calling them, checking on them, seeing how they doing. Um, making sure that they have what they need for the work. Being patient, because I know when I was in the classroom, some students would try to finesse work, and so now I can't peep if they are, or I really can't judge, what's going on with in their particular situation, because I really don't know, you know. And so I think that a teacher really, if you're going into this during this e-learning process, you have to be patient. You have to be able to kind of build some accountability, because it's a different type of accountability, when they don't do the work, and you give them a zero. Now if they don't do the work, it's kind of like, okay, well, just try to get as much as much of it as you can done, and do the best that you can, because you can't really teach how you want to, because you can't, like my brother said, you it's not that energy. You don't have that same energy when you're in the classroom. So, just patience. Patience is the key. It's really, I'm gonna let somebody else speak, but you really can't prepare somebody for this situation because it's so new. And so the best thing to do is just to be patient, because they change the rules and change the engagement, almost if not every week, every other week. So yeah, just patience is the key.
Okay.
I would like to add something too.
Okay.
I think with respect to higher education, I think that the whole COVID situation and us being away from the traditional classroom environment is just showing us that there should be a shift to normalize online education. And we do have a number of professors that have full classrooms online. You have 100% online degrees or hybrid courses. So I think higher education institutions should go ahead and basically gather all of the instructors that already do online teaching and create some sort of system or kind of like a training so that they can develop their own or study pedagogy and the way we basically how we approach education in an online space. Because I think it's something like this is inevitable, meaning us having to teach from a distance that's something that is just gonna have to happen anyway, especially as the technology changes and some people don't really feel the need to be face to face when they can be online. So I think it's just important that we adapt and kind of veer from tradition and have the capacity to be versatile. So if I need to teach and speak in person, that I can do that. But if I have to switch and do my e-learning, then I can do that as well. And not just do it, but still figure out how to enrich the students. Like sometimes, like Brother Mikhail said, we're not going to be able to catch them up if they plagiarizing, cheating, or whatever. But we can figure out a way to do the best that we can. So I think we should develop some sort of system or training to make sure that everyone is well equipped to be able to teach online, just have those skills.
Okay. Okay.
So can I respond really quickly to that? All right. So when it comes to preparing teachers, like my two brothers were talking about, you have to have patience. And I think we should focus on the logistics of how it's going to be carried out. So we need to look at what's being done. So what's being done, we can see is being done on the college level. So the leadership at our school, the principal and assistant principal, already knew that in order to prepare these kids for adulthood and even high school and college, we would have to implement some form of e-learning to get them used to that. So one thing is finding ways to get these children who don't have laptops, or some form of source to get on the internet to actually do this work. That's like the first step. That's what we've been working on at our school personally. And we need to look at what's being done. I know that some teachers do say, even at our school, they concerned about like cheating and things like that. But in my master's in online, in my master's online program, you can ask questions or create a curriculum where they can't cheat. I rarely have quizzes, but they will ask questions and tailor the questions in a way where you have to think. They're not simple yes, no. You're required to write a certain number of words. You're required to cite those kinds of things. So I think that they should just basically focus on what's being done, try to mock that to a certain extent, and then tailor it to your students and their skill level and grade level and things like that. So,
okay. So I want to I know I've enjoyed the conversation. I want to kind of touch upon, I know, Jean, you mentioned that one of the reasons why you all are able to have autonomy with your students in your classroom is because of the leadership. So I know leadership definitely matters in terms of any profession that you're in. When you have a great leader, then you're going to want to do well and go that extra mile, and you're going to be empowered, to feel good about the field that you're in. As far as your students are concerned, and I think you all also kind of touched on this, the fact that you all have more Black male teachers, how receptive have the students been to seeing Black men in the building? And do you think that has made a difference for your students? And I see you're excited and you want to jump in, Jamil, so I'm going to let you go first.
So when I started teaching as a sub, the students saw me as the sub. They didn't see me as somebody that was committed to their education and trying to enrich their lives. So it was pretty challenging transitioning over to becoming the official science teacher. So I've been blessed to have experiences such as the parents will come to me and let me know my student really appreciates science. They appreciate you trying to get them excited about thinking, about them being Black or people of color. They're excited about you just being here and giving them a different experience and listening, trying to be understanding and empathetic. So I'm grateful for that. And then another thing, the young ladies, I know that they don't have good experiences, or a lot of them don't have good experiences with Black men. So at first they were really resistant and they were kind of skeptical, like, oh, okay, well, when are you gonna quit? When are you gonna move on to your next job? And I told them, I'm like, look, Miss Muhammad isn't going anywhere. So in one way or another, if I gotta do a program, whatever, I'm still gonna be here regardless. So y'all are gonna see my face, you're gonna see me, and you're gonna see me put in the same amount of energy, if not more, as the years go on. So a lot of them, as a result, they've opened up and shared experiences with me. A lot of students, they got more comfortable with me. And then you still have the few that are pretty still resistant, just get their guard up. But I'm gonna just work on being consistent and being there. But just those few experiences, the parents, if the parents come to you and say, "Look, I really appreciate you being here for my kid, for my student, or my child," so that it just hits different. Like I was literally at one of their basketball games, and a parent just came up to me. I've never seen him in my life. They were like, "Look, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you and your brother are doing," because they know we're brothers. Mm-hmm. So they're like, "Thank you for what you're doing. We really appreciate it." And that feels better than a lot of other things that I experienced in my life.
Yeah. Mikhail, what about you? Because you're in an environment where it's all young Black men, all boys school. What do you see that your students appreciate and value you? I know it's sort of different because it's a 50-50, split in terms of the teaching staff, men and women, but how has that experience been in terms of your students? Do they seem to value and appreciate you being there?
Yeah, I truly believe that they do. It's a few things that I believe that they pick up on. Especially being from Chicago. I wasn't like I'm 22. I'll be 23 next week, and so they know that I'm not that far in age from them, and so just having that relatability, I feel like I'm an example to them because I've expressed that I'm, the age that I am because we've had to have a heart to heart because a lot of these young men are damaged from society, and so us having a heart to heart, they realize that I can achieve this level right here in professionalism because I see this individual in front of me that's teaching me that's not that far in age from me, and he comes from the same situation. Before I graduated from University of Chicago Lab, I attended Hales Franciscan, and that was like one of the first all boys schools in Chicago for young black men. So I kind of had the same experience as them, all the way through. And so I just feel like when they see a black man that's teaching them and that loves them, like my brother was talking about, they don't have a good experience with black men. It's sad to say, but you know, 76% of our low income families don't have fathers in them. And so, when you don't have that figure in your life, and that figure is not consistent in your life, you're gonna think the individual in front of you is not gonna be consistent. And so I've had to have the same speech. Mr. Muhammad here till the year is over. So, we all in this together. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And so when you show that love, that consistency, you become an example. And when you share the same experience and you can relate to their circumstances, you're able to touch so many students that, you know, it just becomes a situation to where they just love you, because you are that example. Because a lot of the times we only see the success that we see from black people is that rap or you know play some type of sports, and so you don't really see on TV black men that are doctors, lawyers. We got to see Barack Obama, but that was a very rare occasion, and so um just being that example for them helps to mold them, because I was um looking at this video from I think his name was Brother Ben X. This was about 3 years ago, and he kind of put it into perspective, saying that when you take a picture of a room and you in that room, the first person you gonna look at in that picture is for yourself.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? And so, as a young black man growing up in Chicago, we don't learn about ourselves. And so, for somebody to have that self knowledge and to have that self love and to show it and express it to you, that means a lot for these young brothers and sisters. Just to get to know who they are instead of what society depicts us as every day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do really think it's beneficial to not only have, you know, man, I just really believe that having a black man in the classroom is important, especially in front of young black men, because we just have to do better all around, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jean, do you have any thoughts, insight that you want to share in terms of how your students have responded or to you?
Um, so it's kind of weird. I have K through 8,
Mm.
so I have all of them all day long, every week, every week, all day. So I have struggled with balancing my style. I have to constantly switch my style, my teaching style up. I could have 2 third-grade classes, have to be drill sergeant in this class and Mr. Super Cool in this class. It just depends. And I have had to find creative ways to build relationships with my students. And I've been researching. I study leadership. I've been doing all I can to try to figure out how to empower these students, how to deliver education relative to physical education to them. So whether that's empowering them by letting them teach the class, that's what I was doing with the 8th grade classes and the 7th grade classes, pretty much the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, you just have to. I think that first year I got to know the students. They figured out, like Mikhail and Jamil were saying, you're not going anywhere. So that helps. So I got a feel for most of the students. And I learned like how they work. And I found ways to get them on my team so that we can, have a great gym experience. So yeah, and that's been a challenge. But it's been a fun challenge because I feel like I've grown all the way through. I feel like I've grown as a person. So yeah.
How old are you? I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't ask, but since Mikkel shared how old he was, now I'm curious.
I'm 25. I'll be 26 July in July.
Okay.
I'll be 26 on the 26th of July.
Okay. And Jamil, so that means that you're what, 24 or soon to be 24?
Soon to be 24. And happy birthday, Miguel.
That's right. Happy early birthday.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it, y'all. Appreciate it.
So I want to know, because we're going to wrap up, because I know I've taken a lot of your time and you guys have been teaching all day. Who inspires you? So I'm going to start with you, Jamil.
I have a large list of individuals that inspire me. So I think for time's sake, I have to chop it down, unfortunately. I would definitely say all of my siblings for sure, because I can take one of their strong attributes and try to apply it to my life. So my siblings are very talented. They're very intellectual, artistic. They provide different experiences, and they kind of bring me back down to earth when I seem to be out in the cosmos. So I would say my siblings, my mother, she's definitely always there for me, always telling me how proud she is of me. My dad, because that's my father, like a strong Black man teaching me how to be a man, and he wants me to be better than him. So I can't be anything but grateful for that. Also, there are two Black men from high school. Their both names were Mr. Collins. They weren't related, but one of them was my biology teacher, and he inspired me to want to study biology. And the second one was my ag leadership and agricultural finance teacher. So they were just there for me. So my finance teacher, I was with him for about 3 years actually, and he just gave us different experiences. And he studied was an African American Studies minor and econ major at University of Minnesota. So not only did I have that spark with biology my sophomore year with Mr. L. Collins, but Mr. William Collins, he really just believed in me. When I told him I was going to Morehouse, he said, I can see that, and I want to see you matriculate, graduate, and do well. So that really, your parents are always there for you, but it's different when there's somebody else too. So I don't know what it is about that, but just the fact that he believed in me, it was a really strong driving force. So I would say that as well. And also I have a lot of friends and family that confirm my mission, and they tell me how important it is that I, and my brother, and everybody else, how we approach and experience education. So there are a lot of people. I'm pretty open to different people and how they just approach life in the way that they think. So those are my main inspirations. I would say Ms. Collins, Mr. Collins, mom, dad, and my siblings.
Okay. All right. Older brother, Gene. Who inspires you?
Okay. So, man, people inspire me and cartoons inspire me.
Cartoons?
Yes. So my father, mother, even like my grandmother, my siblings as well. I see how powerful my siblings are. I see where I lack and they excel, definitely. I see that in my students too. Like I'm very fascinated by it. Like this kid could definitely be great. This kid doesn't even know. But he already said all the family and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go and say I'm like Farrakhan got me on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, man. Like he pulled me up. Like but that's in combination to my father. My father was key with that, you know. My father is the one who provided me with books and things like that. And my journey pretty much started there. It was my father and Farrakhan. Like that's pretty much where that started. And but as I've grown, I have mentors. I have all kinds of mentors. People think that your mentor has to come from somebody who you have to meet up with and things like that. No, you can go on YouTube. You can use your technology to have mentors. You should learn from everything, literally everything. You should study all things. You should study success. You should study successful people. I don't study one person because I don't agree, nor do I disagree with everybody, you know? So you have to, and I just want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
Black men have to stop, and Black boys and Black teenagers have to stop allowing anybody to teach them how to live. Everybody is not qualified to tell you how to live. You have to know who you are, right? And even though we all have a general sense of who we are, we're all still different. So we have to, you have to study yourself, things like that. And you should pretty much go from there. Like, learn who you are, decide how you want to live. Don't just accept something. Always challenge things. Anytime somebody's trying to suggest something to you, challenge it. How could this be wrong, or how could this be beneficial, how could this be negative, how could this harm me, how could this help me, those kinds of things. But I feel like that question is a little limited, because I feel like I learn from everything. I don't even have a bunch of things inspire me. Dragon Ball Z inspires me. That's a cartoon. Like, literally, I get inspired from anything. I get inspired from this podcast. So yeah.
Okay. And Mikhail, what about you?
Yeah, man, I have to agree with brother 100%. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been uh, the most iconic figure in Black history, in my opinion, because of the 60 plus years that he's worked in our community, the trials and tribulations that he's gone through, and to see what our people can become and the life that we live and still commit to the work of Almighty God Allah. I mean, that just in itself is just something that it's just hard to not be inspired by that. And through his work, my parents have, done so much work in the community. They're, I don't even really know how to explain, the gratitude that I have for my parents. Just being the individuals that they are. My dad working as hard as he does for the nation. My mom working in the community every day, talking to her different clients. Having to go through ups and downs with what she does. Um, and my last, it's like my brother said, it's tons of things that inspire me. My grandparents, family members, just to see the path that they went through, but the universal path that Black people have gone through, um, wherever you are in the planet, if you're Black, it's a trial. It's a trial against your skin color everywhere you are. And so for us to still be here and still be relevant and still to, we still trying to climb to the top of society, even though every time we take a step, they remove, they remove the step under us. You know what I'm saying? And so just Black people in ourselves with our rich and unique history, you know, that's what inspires me. I just really love Black people. I really love the path that we've been on. It's a lot of heartache, but to show that we still here through all that heartache is just a beautiful. It's just a beautiful thing to see. So that's my inspiration.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I'm trying not to shed a tear, because as you all were talking, a couple of things crossed my mind. Number one, I know your parents, and the way we all know each other really is through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because just in case you all didn't know, my father, the late Munir Muhammad, was the founder of the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And your parents all came through the doors of Crow. And I know that if he were here today, he always talked about teaching Black men. Like, that was his goal. That was why he established Crow, because he wanted a place for Black men to come and learn about the messenger of Allah. And he would just revel in this moment just to hear you all talking, because so often, you have so many of us who wear the name of Muhammad. We have Muslim names, but sometimes may be afraid to even acknowledge, what we really know. And what I saw from you three men today was that you definitely have a foundation. You definitely don't seem to be afraid to acknowledge, um, you know, your upbringing, your roots. So I am glad, I'm happy that our youth have examples like you all in front of them, because that's exactly what they need. Um, are men examples of men who strive for excellence, and who can be an example to show them what they can accomplish. And like, to your point, I think, Mikkel, earlier when you talked about having a passion, it's one thing to get into this profession just for the sake of, saying that you have a job, but you definitely have to be passionate. You have to be committed. Um, and teaching is a noble profession. Um, and it takes a special type of person to be able to teach our youth and to remain committed. So I thank you all. I'm sure that you all are going to continue to do well. I'm looking forward to hearing about some of your entrepreneurial pursuits. Perhaps the three of you all can collaborate on something, because you all grew up in the same area, you know. In this way, perhaps you all can formulate some type of relationship. But I'm just honored to be able to have you all as my first male guest. So I think, so for any other men that I'm going to have on my show, they've got a certain level of excellence that they've got to try and achieve with being on here. But you guys did a great job. And I wanted to, Jean, you mentioned about mentorship, and that was actually one of my questions that I was going to ask about. And I appreciate the fact that, you've shared that you can learn something from everyone. You're not just, closed-minded in terms of where you can get your inspiration or information from. I don't want to assume, but do you all mentor, any young people, even outside of the classroom?
We don't mentor. I don't personally. I don't mentor anybody on a one-on-one basis or anything like that. I actually was supposed to do that this summer. I was gonna start a little program for these second graders. They were giving their teachers a very hard time, but they seem to relate to me pretty well. So I was gonna use this summer to create some little curriculum for them, probably a physical curriculum where we could just hang out and get to know one another. They could just know me, know how I think, because I feel like I have something I offer intellectually, and in terms of my values and things like that. I feel like they could benefit from it as little 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds and things like that. But other than that, we actually ran after school programs for Impact Beyond. We started another nonprofit. It's called Imprana Inc. And we basically implement and facilitate after school enrichment programs and summer programs as well. Mm-hmm. So I just created a website recently, and at the bottom of the programs page of what we offer is mentorship. So I'm actually in the mode of trying to do that, because I feel like it's needed. I believe that if we want change, the way anybody gets any change, you have to institutionalize the change, and that's what these Imprana serves to do. And our schools, McHale School, ECUEA, even this is a form of a little institution, because it's formed in a way to do something, to deliver something, to educate people, things like that. So yeah, so not on a one-to-one basis, but like we tried. Our mentorship comes in different forms. Like we tried the Saturday program, but COVID kind of stopped that. Mm-hmm. So we were in the mode of trying to do those things. So
thank you. Any closing remarks from? Go ahead, Mikkel.
Just to add on to the mentorship, I wouldn't call, I guess I wouldn't call myself like I'm not a part of a program or anything like that. But anytime, and I feel like this is the case for all of us on here, anytime we get an opportunity to be in front of young Black men, and to give them any gems, or anything to help them while they're further their life, in their young teenage years or even in their early 20s, I feel like we always do that. So that's a form of mentorship, just not being, just not having a title. My students, I talk to them I've always kept it 100 with them every time we was in the classroom, about what life is about. Anytime I see a young black man trying to be successful, you know, I try to give as much guidance as I can, even the ones that really don't know what they want to do. You know, that's always important. We should, I just we should always have that ability to give some form of scholarship to our young men and women. To just help them, get them some gems, especially with us being at the age that we are now. Because I remember when I was like 15, I wasn't really trying to listen to nobody that was 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, even though they had some wise words. You just like, you just kind of like in that arrogance, oh, I know this and I know that phase. But when you got somebody that's close in age with you, it's just a lot more personable in that regard. So, yeah.
Okay. And then Jamil, you got the final word.
I would like to say thank you for giving us this time to speak and share our ideas and experiences. On the mentorship piece, I do have, regardless of COVID or during the school year, I do have a few students that still reach out and talk to me, and they tell me what's going on a consistent basis, which I'm really grateful for, because they feel as though they can trust me, which they can. So in the future, we definitely are going to implement and be intentional about mentorship and giving young black men a space to share their experiences, so we can address different mental health issues and just teach them, or at least guide them in the direction that they can develop as men and be of service to their community as well. I think conversations like this, of course, are very important, and we need to continue this, because even from just us three, I feel as though our perspectives and our experiences are a lot different. So we can see the diversity just with us three. So imagine how it would be if you had 5, 10, 20 people, everyone sharing their experiences. We're not even known. 2% of the teaching population, black men. So it's important that we're known and that we continue to share our experiences and hopefully inspire other black men, young black boys to become educators, especially in their communities, places of need.
Well, I think the perfect place. Uh-oh. Mikhail, you got something you want to add? Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't know he was doing, final words.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, man, I'm really appreciative of the opportunity. This is something that I will truly cherish. Seeing other young black men doing their thing out here in the world. And I would just like to say that for anybody that's listening, you know, it's a lot that we can do to help ourselves become better. And that's just kind of like just learning more about what we've done, not only just in this country, but for the entire globe. I'm just gonna give a shout out to history because that is my major and that's what I teach. So I would just like to tell people that don't really have a fundamental knowledge of what it's like to be black here in this country, and to also go through that educational system, just to read up on some history. Just go look at some articles in Google, some historical facts about how things have been planned through systemic racism to kind of keep us down within the educational field. So that's it. I really appreciate the opportunity, though.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have to say thank you for allowing us to be on this show as well. I didn't say thank you. I didn't know it was closing remarks. I'm gonna say something real quick.
Okay.
I think that, like Mikhail was just talking about, we have to study what we've done in the past, and the way that we get any change is taking responsibility. So if you see an issue, take responsibility for it to fix it. That's what our little nonprofit is that we're starting. We're trying to take responsibility for where we're at, and that's what we have to do. So that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so very much for, like I said, taking time out of your day to share your experiences with me and with the audience. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again sometime really soon, because you all definitely shed a lot of light on your experience in the education field. And I just want you all to know I'm very proud of you all. So continue to do great things. And I pray that Allah continues to bless all three of you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.